Welcome, students, to today's master class. Go ahead and grab a seat, get comfortable, and definitely get ready to take some notes. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide through this explainer today because we are going to dive really deep into the psychology of workplace communication and conflict resolution. Look, we all have to deal with other human beings, right? And let's just face it, sometimes those human beings are incredibly difficult. But instead of just getting frustrated or wanting to pull our hair out, we're going to learn how to clinically observe, analyze, and totally master these interactions. It's like a giant puzzle, and today we're getting all the pieces.
So here is our syllabus for today. We'll kick things off with Customer Psychology 101, then move into identifying difficult customer types. After that, we're tackling handling the irate customer, followed by the language of de-escalation and vocal stress and tone. Finally, we'll wrap up with office hours for a little Q&A session. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Customer Psychology 101. The foundational rule here is actually pretty simple. When a customer's needs are blocked, stress totally takes over. Our job? Well, our job is to clinically recognize these stress behaviors as pure data, not as stereotypes.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, Identifying Difficult Customer Types. Let's look at some specific behaviors. Now check out how completely opposite these two archetypes are. First, you have the talkative customer. You know the type. They're chatty, super expressive, and honestly, a lot of times they're just a little lonely. But time is money, right? So to manage them, you actually have to switch up your tactic and use closed-ended questions. That's how you regain control of the timeline. On the flip side, we have the indecisive customer. Oh boy, they will spend literally hours agonizing over a single choice. With this type, you've got to use a firm, confident tone, but switch to open-ended questions. You need to uncover their true underlying needs and then carefully guide them toward a solution, almost like you're holding their hand through the process. Moving a bit further down our taxonomy, let's compare the rude customer with the dissatisfied customer. So the rude customer, they're going to snap at you. They might use aggressive or even completely abusive language. It's tough, but clinically speaking, this offensive behavior almost always masks deep, deep insecurity. They are literally just trying to get attention. Your best move? Maintain an even, unbothered tone and keep direct eye contact. Now conversely, the dissatisfied customer feels totally victimized. In their mind, their problem is the single most important thing in the universe right now. What they need is your absolute uninterrupted attention and a whole lot of empathy. Whatever you do, do not make excuses to this person. Just focus entirely on correcting the mistake.
And wow, that brings us to the ultimate specimen in our study today, the irate customer. This customer is seeing red. They might feel cheated, or maybe they just got genuinely terrible service. But psychologically, they are actively using that anger to intimidate you. And why would they do that? Well, because the anger makes them feel like they are the ones calling the shots. They want to be in control. What they desperately crave in that moment is for you to appreciate exactly why they are so mad. They want special attention, clear explanations, and fast solutions. Let me tell you what they absolutely under no circumstances want. Denials, arguments, or a condescending tone. That will just throw gas on the fire.
So how do we deal with that? Let's get into Section 3, Handling the Irate Customer.
All right, here is your playbook. These are the 5 textbook steps to handle an angry customer, and they are absolutely crucial. Step 1, listen actively without interrupting. Just let them vent. Get it all out. Step 2, empathize and reassure them that you completely understand why they're upset. Validation is key here. Step 3, negotiate a feasible solution, but make sure you involve them in that process so they feel a sense of ownership. Step 4, request a written complaint via email. This formalizes their grievance and actually helps them logically process the event. And finally, Step 5, follow up later to ensure the solution actually worked. If you want the golden rule of customer service, it's this: always underpromise and overdeliver.
Let's transition to Section 4, the language of de-escalation. This is where things get really fascinating. In these highly charged emotional situations, your choice of words is literally your most powerful lever. I'm serious. Precision in grammar and phrasing isn't just about sounding polite for the sake of it. It's a calculated psychological tactic to diffuse tension and bring the customer's brain back to baseline. Language acts as either gasoline or water on a fire. Look at the accusatory phrases that fuel emotion. You should have, or our policy does not permit. And the absolute worst, most explosive thing you can ever say to an angry person: calm down. No way. Avoid these entirely. Instead, look at the collaborative, diffusing phrases. May I explain? Here's what I can do. Or, I understand what you're saying.
Do you hear the difference? This phrasing instantly brings the emotional temperature down because it validates their experience. We also need to apply what I like to call formal linguistic upgrades to our everyday standard vocabulary. Shifting to a slightly more formal register creates this invisible professional boundary that naturally commands respect. So instead of snapping "what?", try saying "I beg your pardon?" Instead of casually asking "do you want?", shift that to "would you like?". You want to liberally use modal verbs like could and may. Let's be honest, "may I have your name please?" sounds infinitely more professional and calming than "what's your name?". These are small, highly structured upgrades, but they soften tense interactions quite significantly.
Moving right along to Section 5, vocal stress and tone. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
The core rule of rhythm in connected English speech comes down to the distinction between content words and structure words. Content words, we're talking nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs. These hold the independent meaning of your sentence. They are the meat and potatoes. Structure words, like articles, prepositions, and conjunctions, they're really just the grammatical glue holding it all together. So to speak with real authority and clarity, especially under pressure, we must forcefully punch the content words that hold the meaning and just glide smoothly right over the structural grammar words.
Let me give you an audible demonstration of this concept, just to show you how shifting your vocal emphasis can completely rewrite a sentence's implication. Listen very closely. If I stress the first word, "I love you," it implies that I, and absolutely no one else, loves you. Now if I stress the last word, "I love you," it means you are the only one I love. But if I heavily stress the verb, "I love you," well, that emphasizes the deep, passionate intensity of the feeling. The grammar on the page remains identical, but the vocal stress totally dictates the psychological impact on the receiver. It's a game changer. All right, Section 6, Office Hours. Put your notebooks away, class, because it is time for our final exam. We're going to use the Socratic method here to test your ability to diagnose and identify these difficult customers using real-world statements pulled straight from our source material. Let's see how sharp your clinical observation skills truly are today.
Okay, here is your first scenario. Imagine a customer marches up to you and snaps, "I've only got a few minutes, so I need you to attend to me immediately." All right, consult your mental textbooks. Based on the taxonomy we just covered, what archetype are we dealing with here?
If you diagnose them as the demanding customer, you get an A for sure. This archetype desperately feels the need to be in control of everything and will constantly make unreasonable demands on your time. Your textbook response? Stay completely calm, be assertive, and focus strictly on the appropriate action. Do not let them push you into committing to something impossible just because they're rushing you.
Perfect. Let's look at Scenario 2. You're trying to close a discussion, maybe finalize a plan, and the customer dodges you with, "Why don't we take this up another time?" Listen to the evasiveness in that question. Which of our archetypes relies heavily on this specific avoidance tactic?
The correct answer is the indecisive customer, or in some professional contexts, we call them the reluctant customer. They are scrambling to find excuses to avoid making a decision. As the trained professional in the room, your required intervention is to ask open-ended questions, uncover their actual hesitations, and firmly guide them back to the decision at hand without being overly aggressive about it. Okay, Scenario 3. This one is high stakes. The customer declares, super loudly, "Never again will I ever use the services of your organization." The emotional temperature in the room is absolutely peaking. Who are we dealing with here?
Yep, you guessed it. This is the irate customer. We are looking at a severely escalated, highly emotional situation. Remember your training for this one. Take a deep breath and literally mentally count to 10 before you even open your mouth. Remain objective. Remind yourself they are angry at the organization, not at you personally. Empathize, validate their frustration, and whatever you do, do not make excuses.
And finally, our last exam question, Scenario 4. The customer sighs and says, "Well, it's working better now, but still not as I expected." Listen to that lingering, unresolved grievance all wrapped up in that statement. Which customer archetype is this one?
That is the classic dissatisfied customer. No matter what you try to do to fix it, they still feel a bit victimized and let down. They want you to know they aren't fully happy yet. Your required clinical response here is to give them your uninterrupted attention, empathize without being patronizing, and focus entirely on correcting the remaining mistake rather than defending your process. Fix the problem, don't argue the history.
Excellent. Excellent work today, class. We've covered the whole shebang, everything from psychological profiling and vocal rhythm to the precise syntax of diffusing anger. But Theory is absolutely nothing without practice. So as you pack up your notes today, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How will mastering the grammar of de-escalation change your very next difficult conversation? Are you going to let stress dictate the outcome, or are you going to use your brand new clinical tools to take control? Class dismissed. Now go out there and put these skills to the test in the real world.